There we are. Hello, everybody. Let me get this all set up. Ah, the whole thing spun. Technology. I don't know that I'll ever be a total pro at this. So thanks to my friend Karen with Starstream Productions, who's going to help me get a really good setup for this. But for now, you get me on a selfie stick. There we go. But I'm glad you're here on the Inside Scope today. That makes me so happy. We're going to be talking about what to do with somebody who's on the wrong path. This still does not. Hold on a second. I'll get it. Hello, Mara12. I'm so glad you're here. Happy Thursday. I'm still figuring out the technology here and getting like the camera still and on me and all of that. So those of you who joined and I didn't see your thing pop up, hello, I'm glad you're here. If you're new to Periscope, let's go over some basics. You can tell me where you're from in the comments. You can just type something in and click send and it'll come up and it'll show up on my screen. Most of the time, it's actually come to my attention that they're not all coming through. So if I skip you, I'm sorry. Go ahead and ask again. Feel free to ask throughout the scope. I'm here to help. Go ahead and right now tap on your screen for me. You'll see some hearts float up. And what that means is if we were sitting in a room and I was talking to you and I said something and I could see you nod, oh yeah, or you were applauding and I could see that I was hitting the mark for you, these are hearts, and that sort of does the same thing for me. It lets me know that I'm hitting the mark, that I'm speaking something that makes sense to you and touches you in some way. So if you tap on your screen, you'll see the hearts float up, and that's what that's for. Something else you can do, if you swipe your screen to the right, you'll see an option come up. There's a little map and then some options below. If you click on the little box with the arrow that's coming out through it, you can actually share this with your feed. So I'd love it if you'd go ahead and do that now and just tap on that. It'll ask you if you want to share this. And when you do, everyone in your feed says, hey, come join me on this scope. So if you're new to Periscope, that's how you use this. So hi, I'm so glad you're here on the Inside Scope. And again, I'm not seeing everybody's information pop up on here, so I'm sorry if I'm not able to say hello to everyone as you come in. Usually I can kind of see your names pop up, and I'm just seeing the number. So hello, feel free to comment if you want to introduce yourself and tell me where you're from. I just gave some tips for those of you who are new on Periscope. Feel free to use those at any time, tapping for hearts, share with a swipe of the screen and the little box with the arrow, or use the little comments in the bottom and you can talk to me during the scope. What I'm about to do here in just a second is take a quick beat. You'll see me go silent for a second, and what I'm doing is I'm going to act like this is a brand new hello introduction time so that when the recording goes on my YouTube channel and on my blog, it's just a nice fresh recording. I'm learning and I'm getting better at this, and that just helps the editing go a little easier, and then people who are actually watching the recording, that all of these helpful Periscope tips are here to help people who are here live. They're not so helpful for people who are watching the recording. So you're going to see me do that here in just a second, and then we'll get started. Again, thanks for being here. Hi, today is December 17th, and this is the Inside Scope. And today we're talking about how to help somebody who's clearly on the wrong path. My name is Triffany Hammond. That's just like Tiffany with an R. So when you look me up, you can look up, make sure you've got Tiffany, but you've got a little R in there after the T. I am a certified professional life coach, and I help strong, powerful women who have all the trappings of success or are trying to get to that successful point, but it's draining them. Can't figure out that happiness piece. That's where I come in. I provide the tools and the techniques and the exercises that get our lives back in balance so that we can achieve those big, big dreams. Welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. This is the Inside Scope. It is a scope that I do right now once a month, every third Thursday at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. If I start getting a huge onslaught of questions, maybe I'll do more, but for right now, it's just the third Thursday. You can always submit your questions via the online form if you go to Triffany Hammond, remember that R, .com/the Inside Scope, all one word. That's how you can submit a question. Today, I'm answering a question all the way from New Zealand. I'm here in colorful Colorado. Actually, we're kind of down to one color right now. It's pretty white from the snow, but we're known as colorful Colorado in the United States. My question today comes from Mark in New Zealand. And Mark asks, how do you deal with people who seem to be stuck in a pattern of living where they think they're on a good path, but it's obvious that they aren't? And for some reason, they don't see or accept reality as it is. I think we've all had this experience, haven't we? When we've seen someone who is taking a destructive path. It's really easy to determine that when it is something destructive, right? When it's drugs, it's alcohol, it's self-sabotaging type behavior. It gets a little more nuanced, doesn't it, when someone is taking a path that we just don't agree with. So always, we want to check in and make sure that we're really clear on the situation. Remember, we cannot make someone else behave a certain way. I don't care if it's your child. I don't care if it's your best friend, if it's your parents. I don't care. We can't make anyone else show up a specific way. We can't make them behave a certain way. The only thing we can ever do is be responsible for our behavior, is be responsible for our part in everything. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is, first of all, taking a look at what this question really means. Now, I don't have the nuances, I don't have the details of this particular situation, so I might need to talk about it with some generalities. And that's okay, we're going to get there, so just stay with me. Because we're looking at a couple different things, right? It could be an eating disorder, it could be, like I said, drugs or alcohol. It could also be somebody wants to quit their job and go to the Peace Corps, right? I don't know the details. But step one is really what we want to do is be able to check in with the truth, right? I want you to think about, and actually I do this in my workshops too. When I ask you, give me a moment you're really proud of. Give me a time in your life when you have really done something that is stand out, that you're excited about, that you can speak about with pride. Inevitably, those moments come on the heels of some kind of trial. Inevitably. So it could be a job loss, it could be overcoming addiction, it could be any number of things. But what I want to do is begin to challenge the thought that this wrong path, that these wrong things, this destructive behavior, is ultimately, in the long game, in the big picture, wrong. Who are we to know? Who are we to say, right? I know for me personally, it is my trials and my tribulations that have strengthened me. All of the things that I have done, whether it's been done to me or whether I was the jerk and I did it to somebody else, they have all, upon reflection and self-work, they have all served my greater good. In fact, many of them have brought me to this work as a life coach where I help other people. So there's not a single thing I would go back and I would undo that was painful, ugly, wrong, any of those things, even though I have had to go back and make some serious apologies. So the very first thing I want you to consider is, do you really know the right path? Do you really know this person's path? Is it even in your lane? Is it in your business? Do you have any control? When I say things like, is it your business? I'm asking, do you really have control? Okay, that's the question that I'm asking. So if you don't have control, it's not your business. That doesn't mean you can't be there for them. That doesn't mean that you can't participate in the conversation where they're willing. It means that you are expending energy in a place that will ultimately deplete you and not really help them. Does that make sense to everyone? I'm actually really thinking about, this is tricky, right? Because somebody who's going to ask this question, Mark in New Zealand has asked this question today, is the care, right? We care about the people in our lives. And I've got 2 teenagers, believe me, I've had to make some tough choices and put some of their work back on them that I knew were hard choices. And that actually brings me to step 2. Step 2, I'm actually going to introduce a little bit, those of you who have done my For All Is Love, Fail to Win course, you're going to recognize some of this. You actually have tools and techniques that you can use from the course, but I'm just going to sort of give you the broad overview. I'm talking about things from the all and the is portion of the course right now. And really what we want to do when we're looking at where am I in this, where is my work in this, if I'm going to stay in my lane and I'm going to assume that this person is on the path that is going to serve their greatest good. Now, whether or not they're willing to do that work is a matter of timing and a matter of grace. And I can't show up with grace if I'm not doing my own work, right? So step 2 is if I'm giving up this need to control someone else, then the next thing I need to do is come back in and look at where the control is in myself. Where do I fit into this? Where is my work? If I'm making a judgment of someone else, remember the you spot it, you got it, right? If I'm making a judgment of someone else, that means I have work to do. That's okay. Come back in my lane and do my work. Now, this isn't abandoning them. This isn't saying I'm not going to be there for you if you call. I'm not going to be there for you if you ask. It doesn't mean that necessarily. It means that I'm going to empower myself in such a way that when you come back and the situation changes and the nuance of the situation changes, I am now empowered because I've done my work. I am now fueled. Instead of fighting against them and their resistance, and then when they're ready, we don't believe it. We check them off. We're like, yeah, I've heard it before, right? When we want to be ready when they're ready for us. So we come back and we go into ourselves. And we begin to look at where dark and light exist in us. So, number 1, we've made a judgment. Right there, if we've made a judgment about somebody else, we've got work to do. We're going to come inside and we're going to do that on ourselves. And we're going to look at how both sides of every judgment we have work in us all the time. They exist in us all the time. They're not mutually exclusive. So, what I mean by that is, if I've judged someone, I also have a certain level of acceptance for them, especially in this situation where clearly it's somebody that I care about, right? So those two things exist in me. Now I get to choose where am I going to put that energy. Am I going to put that energy in the judgment side where I get angry and I get frustrated? And remember, that's depleting. We could stay there. Sure, it's in there. Absolutely. If that's where you want to be, go for it. The other side, though, is this acceptance piece. So where is this thing in them that I said I loved? Where is this thing in them that I said that I enjoyed about this person? Why am I even invested in this? And we begin to look at that, and we begin to invest our energy there. And that is what refuels us. Now we're putting energy back into ourselves when we begin to build on this other piece of the truth. And I'm going to tell you what is going to happen. And this is remarkable, and I have seen it time and time again in my own life, and I've seen it in the lives of my clients. The timeline that begins, that it takes somebody to go through their paces, whether it's addiction, hurtful behavior, self-sabotage, things like that. The timeline, those things can go on in perpetuity, really, right? But what begins to happen is those cycles start to speed up a little bit until that person starts to stay more and more in the side that wants to change, in the side that wants to be there. So trust me, I know it's a little counterintuitive and it's a little bit of a leap of faith here, but what you will begin to see as you come in and you do your own work and you're refueling yourself, you're sending the subconscious message to them that they've got their business. I'm not going to invest in your stuff anymore. You got this. Look, we can blah, blah, blah at people all day long. You're strong, you're powerful, you've got this, you can overcome this. We can do that. And that's coming from a place of belief in us, or else we wouldn't say it. We're not totally fake, we're not totally liars, right? And we want to empower them. But if we're saying that, and yet we're constantly telling them how to live their lives, the conscious message we're sending is you got this. The subconscious and so much more powerful message we're sending is you don't really have this. Let me tell you how it is. I thought you had this, but you're kind of sucking at it. So let me fix this for you, right? Do you understand how that begins to, it's the subconscious message that begins to rule the agreement in their head. That begins to be the program that they operate off of. You know, take a look at it in instances of even adolescence. Let's just take it simple. Adolescence. There's lots of things that go on in adolescence. As their prefrontal cortex grows in, the brain goes back to already developed parts of the brain because it can't rely on the undeveloped parts. Well, the developed parts are the fight or flight. It's the highly emotional, visceral reactions, right? So if we're coming at a kid in adolescence, and we're constantly telling him, look, you're bright, you're smart, I know you've got this. I don't understand why you're failing your classes, or you can't keep friends, or whatever the destructive behavior is that you're watching. If you're saying all of this, that's great. Those words are great. Yes, start there if that's what you've got. Encourage, always help people see their strengths. But remember that every time that you come at them with a lecture, every time that you tell them they're making the wrong choice, every time that you disallow their learning process through failure, through mistakes, you're basically telling them you can't really trust yourself. Even though I said you could, and even though I think you kind of got some things going on, you really can't, because you're gonna screw this up. This is hard. I'm going to give you a very specific example from my own life. My daughter, 2-3 years ago, she was in junior high, and she said, Mom, I have this girl in my class, and she's kind of a mean girl, and I can't explain it, but I want to be her friend. She was really confused by this. This was a kid who always chose the sweet ones, and she's a sweet one, and she's a great kid. And here she is going, I kind of want to be this mean girl's friend, and I don't understand it, right? Now, typical advice, conventional advice would be, oh, honey, she's, you don't do that. She's going to be, if you can see that she's a mean girl, that's not a smart choice. You're going to begin to tell her how to be. The thing is we have to learn experientially. Belief is built on proof. So in order to build up our belief system, that we can trust our instincts, that we can trust ourselves, we've got to prove it to ourselves. We've got to prove that we have that inner strength it takes to overcome problems. We've got to develop and condition these things. So to constantly steer away from them and deny that life experience while the consequences are small is actually kind of dangerous. We want to have those experiences while those consequences are fairly small, and it's not a job and a marriage and a mortgage on the line, right? So I did a very counterintuitive thing with her, and I said, honey, I am not promising you that the outcome is going to feel good. It's likely the outcome is not going to feel good. But if you're feeling called to this experience with this friend, if that's where your intuition is leading you, then you have a lesson to learn. And there's going to be something good out of it. So trust your instincts. I don't have to tell you where this went, right? I don't have to spell this out for you. It did not end well. And all of the things that happened, all of the drama and all of the hurts, she wasn't surprised by any of it. But I'll tell you what she walked away with. She could trust herself. She learned from this girl resiliency. She learned from this girl how to choose a good friend. She learned that sometimes the appeal of this popularity isn't worth what you expend in your soul. Sometimes, right? She learned all of those things, not because she had to memorize it from some lecture, but because she believed it. And now she is so picky about her friends, and she has the best group of friends, and she's got her permit now, and I trust her with her friend, and she's in contact. I've got all of her friends' phone numbers. There are so many things that I never even had to ask for in terms of trust, because she trusts herself. She knows she's not out there making stupid decisions. So that's a very concrete example of the concept I'm talking about. It is hard work when you're the person who loves this person. It's hard to step out and say, hey, I get it. If you feel called to this, you're going to get something from it. It may not feel good. It may not make you happy. But let that be okay. And the moment you recognize that it doesn't, the moment you recognize that this doesn't serve you, have the courage and the strength to walk away. And when you do, hey, I'm over here. I'm doing my work. Which means I'm going to be a whole, complete human being ready to help you who's not already depleted from fighting you on all of this. Does that make sense? I hope this is making sense. So that was a long way of going through all of this to get to step 3. Also from the Fail to Win program, if you've taken the course, use your tools. Go back and look through your tools. You have exercises, you have techniques, you have visualizations and things that you can use to help you really get these things nailed down, solid in you. But this last piece is all about forgiveness and grace. And this is a really, really tricky, tough thing for a lot of people. I've said this before on my scopes, but I want to say it again. Forgiveness is not telling somebody who wronged you that what they did was okay. A lot of people think that's what forgiveness is. It's all right. Don't worry about it. That's not really what forgiveness is. In fact, in a lot of ways, that's denial. Yeah? Forgiveness is finding the space in yourself that can let that be, so that you can take back your energy from the hurt, from the event. You can take back the energy from the pain. You take back that energy so that you can go forward and do something with it. Forgiveness, yes, it's about letting go, but it's also about grabbing on to something very, very purposeful. So the last piece is here, be willing and able to forgive them. And that means all of those times they came to you in a heap, all of those times that even against your best advice, you told them not to and they did it anyway, and now they're in your lap again, not wondering what the hell happened, right? All of those times, your job now is to say they are fallible, they are human, they are on their path. My kids hate it when I say this. Your path is your path. That's not my path. It's not mine to advise you, right? Your path is your path. Just concentrate on what you have to learn from it. Their path is their path. This person, right? This person that you wish to guide somewhere. Their path is their path. And when they come to you and they've sort of drug you into their world and sort of made it your business in a way, your task then is this forgiveness piece. Being willing to let them be right where they are, without judgment, without criticism. Who among us hasn't made mistakes? Who among us hasn't abused a trust? Who among us hasn't gone against sound advice, thinking we knew better, or knowing we were wrong and we did it anyway? Tap into that piece of your humanity that connects to their humanity. And then you can see them as you. There's really no disconnection. Once you see them as you, that grace comes easily. Once you see that there is no disconnection, that forgiveness comes easily. Where you can let that energy, you can sever it. You can let the energy of the hurts be severed, and you can take back the part that you have in it. Now what you're choosing is to move forward. Yes, in your strengths, right? Yes, in your lane, in your business. And because, like I said, their healing and growth will begin to speed up. What will happen is they will begin to come out the other side. They will begin to come out to this healing place. And what they're going to need most during that time is your compassion. Because what's going to happen as they sober up? They're going to have regret for the actions they had when they weren't sober. What's going to happen when they stop self-sabotaging? They're going to recognize all of that time was lost, that they can't get back. They're going to have guilt. And if guilt goes unaddressed, it turns into shame. Do you know the difference between guilt and shame? Guilt is I did something bad. Shame is I am something bad. So unaddressed guilt goes deeply rooted and it turns into other stuff. So what they're going to need from you most when they start to come out the other side of this is your compassion. And the way that you can do that, remember, you've kept whole during this time, right? You've stayed in your lane. You've done the things that help refuel you, not in a resentful, I don't need this anymore kind of way, right? You have done this in a very organic and loving way to give them the space they need to learn what they need. Go back in your business, learn what you need to learn, take that back. And now when they really need you, now when they're ready for that change, you're actually equipped. You're not drained and exhausted, yeah? So now you can come to them and you can tell them consciously with words what you've been telling them unconsciously and subconsciously with action. And that is, you are a good person. You will come through this. You are strong. You are capable. All of those things, and give them specifics. Do you know how many people actually overcome addiction? Do you know how people get to this place? Not many. And but you're here and you're strong, and I can hold this space for you and this vision for your greatness when right now you can't. I'm going to tell you, you are not going to be able to do that for them if you've been depleting yourself fighting them. What we resist persists. The more you fight them, the more they go, okay, I don't have to deal with my business. You apparently have this. They take a step back. You're so invested, they don't have to invest themselves in their own process. And the moment you put their work on them and you just go, okay, I love you, whole and complete, right where you are. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do my work on me. The moment you do that, they don't have a choice but to stand up and do their work. So I think there's something wrong with the comments because I'm seeing a lot of people and nobody's actually saying anything. So I'm sorry if for some reason the application isn't working today and I'm not seeing your comments. But I hope that this is making sense and I hope that this is resonating and ringing true for you. And you can always follow up with questions and we can address them in future scopes. I also do a weekly scope called Scoping Out. I'd be happy to address any follow-up questions there. And of course, we can continue the conversation on my blog or on YouTube, right? So that's how you handle somebody who you feel is on the wrong path. Sounds so simple, 3 easy steps, no big, right? It's tough work. I'm not even gonna joke. It is tough work. If you need help, reach out to a friend, reach out to me, reach out to a counselor or a minister, or whatever that is for you where you get that support. Staying in your lane is actually one of the hardest things you can do. Staying in your business, staying in the things that you can control, because we love these people, right? We want to support them. We don't want to see them make mistakes. We want to help them be happy. And we can't do that if we're not happy ourselves. Who are we, right? Who are we to do that if we can't do that for ourselves? So let me give you a calendar of events. It is a little bit different. Now, I told you already that on these, the Inside Scope, they're the third Thursday of every month at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. That is, that's true. We're going to do that again in January. In fact, let me double check the date and I'll give that to you. January 21st. But before that, we have January 13th is the next live session of the Fail to Win for All Is Love course. So if you want access to those tools that I was talking about, go ahead and go on my website, tiffanyhammond.com/FTW for the win, as the internet knows it, or Fail to Win, as it stands for the course. Take a look at those tools, ask any questions you have there. I would love to have you in the course. I'm not even joking. This is tough work. You're going to need help. I'm here for you. It's the reason that I've done all of this. Now, the next 2 weeks, I'm not doing that Scoping Out. So starting in January, on Wednesdays at 8:30 a.m., I will resume the Scoping Out series that I've been doing as a weekly series. You can join me there as well. The exception to the rule for these next 2 weeks, if you are a lovely member, I am actually doing the group coaching next Wednesday on the 23rd. So go ahead and come to the coaching there. And in January, we already have a question that I think is pretty apropos to the new year. We're going to talk about that. I got this one from Doug in Michigan. How can I consistently stop procrastinating and get more organized? So good for the new year, right? You want to come back in January. Let's talk about how to stop procrastinating and get more organized. We're going to deal with that in January. I hope you'll come back. In the meantime, go to tiffanyhammond.com/the inside scope. Send your question in, like this, share this, tell everybody about this, and maybe it'll appear on one of the next Inside Scopes. Thanks, everybody.